I call the Charlottesville City Council meeting, regular business meeting to order. Ms. Spinks, will you read us out of closed session, please?
I move that this council certify by a recorded vote that to the best of each council member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act and identified in the motion convening the closed session were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed session.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, are we voting electronically, Keno?
I'm not
Okay.
hooked up yet. I'm not-
Okay, all in
Still not
favor,
sure
please say yes.
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 All opposed, please say no. We'll have a moment of silence. Okay, thank you. Are there any announcements? I have a couple of. One is that there will be a 2-hour delay for city schools tomorrow, and then they will make the, decision of whether it's to be extended later in the morning, but it's a 2-hour delay. We got a notice of that, I'm sure everyone, a couple hours ago. And want to make an announcement for December the 13th, the Dogwood Vietnam Memorial Foundation and Mission Barbecue will have a Wreath Across America at the memorial, where they will be laying 66 wreaths for the lives that have been lost from the young men from this community and women from this community. And there's parking there if you need it in the back, but want as many people to come to that as possible. That's December the 13th at 11. The Wreaths Across America, and that's with Mission Barbecue and the Dogwood Vietnam Memorial Foundation. Are there other announcements? Yes.
I've got one. The final neighborhood walk, sponsored by the Charlottesville Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Committee and Ragged Mountain Running Shop, is happening on Sunday, December 14th at 1 p.m. and it will be the North Downtown neighborhood. These are monthly walks that happen throughout the year, each a different neighborhood, on the second Sunday of every month. This will be the last one because it's December already somehow. So again, that is meeting at 1 p.m. on Sunday, December 14th, and the meeting place will be at the McGuffey Art Center. So I hope everyone can join.
Yeah. Other announcements? We have no proclamations this week, so we will go right into the community matters. And we have 3 names signed up so far. The first name I don't see be Joy Johnson. The second one is Wendy. I thought I saw Wendy. Yes, Wendy.
Hi everyone, my name is Wendy and I'm an organizer at FAR. Something that we've encountered a lot over the last few months while organizing against this LV Collective development and now the Mark on 7.5 Street is the consistent argument that these buildings are worth it because they will generate millions of dollars in tax revenue for the city. Tax dollars are great in theory because they fund the redevelopment of West Haven and Kindlewood and other affordable housing communities, but more tax dollars doesn't guarantee better social services and resources. Tax revenue is not distributed equally to everyone and they are not paid for equally by everyone. When we say the LV Collective building would generate, say, $1 million in property taxes a year, that $1 million is not just being given to West Haven residents. Not all of those dollars are going to trickle down to benefit Charlottesville's most vulnerable residents, and that doesn't take into account the fact that residents of West Haven and 10th and Page are also bearing this tax by living under the giant shadow of another looming luxury student development, by losing their generational family home, or by getting the police called on them more because of racial profiling from UVA students. There's also a very material tax impact of these luxury developments. Expensive developments drive up appraised values of adjacent properties and translate to higher real estate taxes for 10th and Page and Fifield homeowners. Yes, the city has tax relief programs, but not everyone qualifies, and if real estate taxes keep increasing and increasing, city-sponsored tax relief won't be sufficient or sustainable, and we can already see that it's not enough. Despite tax relief efforts by the city to prevent displacement, it's already happening. Gentrification has been happening. There's no denying that Fifield, 10th and Page, Rose Hill are not the same as they were decades ago. They've got homes being sold for over $500,000, homes being refitted as Airbnbs, and the racial makeup has changed as more black families have been pushed out. There is no point in increasing tax revenue through expensive market rate developments if the people who could benefit from the revenue the most no longer live in the city because they've been priced out. We have to be willing to forego money for the sake of justice and historical repair and keeping people in their homes. Tax revenue, or the guise of it, was also one of the justifications for the raising of Vinegar Hill. According to Encyclopedia Virginia, a proposed office building to be built on top of the raised community was projected to bring the city $12,000 in revenue and was used by this city to justify bulldozing the Black community. That is the historical legacy that you all are responsible for grappling with, reconciling, addressing, and repairing. People over profit is not just a chant or a thing we put on signs. Do not make the same argument or mistake.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Good evening. My name is Alicia Lenahan. I live in the county. California passed the No Secret Police Act. 7 other states have similar bills pending. Numerous local governments across our country have enacted unmasked ICE resolutions. Virginia's senators introduced the Immigration Enforcement Identification Safety Act. Delegate Jones pre-filed a bill that would make it illegal for most police, including federal agents, operating in the state to hide their faces while on duty. In July, this body received a resolution condemning aggressive and non-transparent federal immigration enforcement tactics. The only radical thing about any of these pieces of legislation is that they're necessary. Here are excerpts. The City of Charlottesville reaffirms its commitment to due process, equal protection, and the rights of all individuals within its jurisdiction. The city will continue to uphold its values as a safe, inclusive, and law-abiding community where government transparency and public safety remain paramount. Raise your hand if you think that's reasonable. The City of Charlottesville strongly condemns using unmarked vehicles, masked agents, and unidentifiable personnel in immigration enforcement activities conducted within the city, and views such tactics as harmful to public trust, community safety, and constitutional protections. Raise your hand if you think that's reasonable. The City of Charlottesville calls upon DHS, ICE, and other sub-agencies to implement clear, uniform identification standards for all field agents, including marked vehicles, visible agency badges, and advance notice protocols when operating in or near local jurisdictions. Raise your hand if you think that's reasonable. The City Council directs the Police Department to monitor any suspected federal enforcement activity in the city and, when legally permissible, confirm the identity and legitimacy of individuals claiming to act as federal agents. Raise your hand if you think that's reasonable. Charlottesville Police shall document and report all incidents where suspected federal enforcement activity involves questionable conduct and refer possible civil rights violations to appropriate legal and oversight authorities. Raise your hand if you think that's reasonable. The City Council directs the City Manager and City Attorney to actively monitor federal enforcement activity within city limits for potential violations of civil liberties and constitutional rights, and to explore legal remedies or interventions available to the city under state and federal law, including but not limited to formal complaints, oversight referrals, and litigation where appropriate. Raise your hand if you think that's reasonable. Thank you.
Thank you. That was the last of the pre-registered speaker. Would anyone else like to speak during this time? Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Terry Tyree. I am a FAR intern, a resident at South First Street, a chapter leader at Virginia Organizing, and a new member of the NAACP. And I am here to speak about the LV Collective proposal and its connection to the very issues our city is struggling to fix, specifically in the Barracks Road and Emmett Street corridor. Right now, the city is spending millions of dollars, years of design work, and even resorting to eminent domain to repair the damage caused by decades of traffic congestion, unsafe pedestrian conditions, and car-centric development. The Barracks Emmett Streetscape project is supposed to correct these mistakes, improve walkability, safety, accessibility, transit use, and overall livability. But approving the LV Collective development moves us right back in the opposite direction. This project would dramatically increase traffic, congestion, and pressure on the very corridor we're trying to fix. It puts high-density student housing with heavy vehicle use directly into an already strained area, adding exactly the kind of pedestrian conflicts, vehicle volume, and infrastructure overload that the Streetscape project was meant to address. We cannot spend years trying to fix a problem on Barracks Road and then turn around and recreate the same problem 2 blocks away. That is not consistent planning. That is not transportation equity, and is certainly not responsible land use management. The public deserves a development strategy that aligns with the goals we say we believe in: safety, affordability, multimodal access, and the responsible use of taxpayer dollars. LV Collective does not meet those goals. And I want to remind Council of something deeply important that was stated right here publicly at the last meeting during Ms. Teresa Walker's proclamation. She shared that the City Hall parking lot, the very ground we stand on tonight, was once her grandmother's home before the city confiscated the land. That is a living reminder of how displacement happens slowly, quietly, and often wrapped up in the language of development progress. We cannot continue repeating patterns where growth serves developers while longtime residents, vulnerable communities, and historically displaced families bear the consequences. Tonight, I urge you, do not approve a project that contradicts your own transportation goals, your housing equity goals, and the city's stated commitment to preventing displacement and correcting historic wrongs. Charlottesville deserves development that builds a better future, not one that repeats the mistakes of our past. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else would like to speak? Robin? Robin?
My name is Robin Hoffman, and I am a Charlottesville Public Access TV host. And today I want to say thank you so much for Mayor Wade for participating on a program that he had no idea what he was going to do, and he was amazing, and he was very delightful. And I implore all of you to watch Charlottesville Public Access TV. I scheduled my name on it, Robin Hoffman, but also you can watch all the shows this year on YouTube. And I say that is because I made the effort to go around and see how people are thriving after, you know, all the insults and abuse that we're getting from the federal government, you know, since 2025. And, you know, people have a lot of issues. And what was wonderful today is that I found out that Mayor Wade knows about all those issues. So I really hope that he is our mayor for, like, forever. That's number one. Number two, we have Charlottesville Public Access TV, after the pandemic, lost a lot of producers. As you know, most of the churches came back, and now the churches are kind of leaving as well. And the reason is we don't know, but we believe that people are not, for instance, city council or some other entity promoting the free speech and the voice that people, you know, can freely go there instead of doing this for 3 minutes, you know, 26 minutes or an hour, and have conversations, real conversations. So right now, there's 3 programmers that are there for like 2 years that have not come back. Michael Payne is one of them.
It's been a few months.
I said to David today, Michael Payne does a lot for campaigners, and I know you do a lot of work for a lot of people. And so it's probably why, you know, it's hard to get a guest to come speak. But Michael Payne's show was really crucial in so many aspects of unionizing and just having a voice for, and being able to have that complex conversation with real people, transit from the Port Authority, from, what is it called, what's the transit authority? Transit authority? Okay, and so forth. So it can be really easy to go, okay, so all you have to do, instead of just coming here for 3 minutes, please go to the downtown mall, your place, and there's a sign there and it tells you to call him if he's not there 9 to 5. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, and this, I have 1 more minute. So,
No.
the Christmas illumination, I'm doing caricatures again this year, and I'll be tabling the city. Please come, it was fun. Okay.
Yeah. She did remind me of one more announcement. This Friday is at, Sam, is it 5 o'clock? It's the grand illumination here, so please come out. It's
I
great.
think the actual flipping of the switch is at 7:30.
7, yeah, it's a lot of activities and things for the family and things before then. Yes, let me get over here and then I'll come back. Anyone over here? Yes.
Hello,
Hello.
and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Abba, and I'm alongside Rachel and Aylin, and we are, of course, again, Friends of FAR, a student group organization under the direction of FAR that is once again coming here to tell you guys that as students, we are against LV Collective and the development. I know we're back from break, and it may seem like it's been a pause, but we just wanted to let you guys know as council, students are learning about what LV Collective is, and we're continuing the work to do research, we're continuing the work to advocate, and we have been very grateful towards Joy, Wendy, and Latricia for guiding us and giving us the access and avenue to support FAR and the work that they do, and just as an organization, as a group, we are here once again to say that students do not believe that LV Collective is something that we need. It, again, infringes on UVA's history of take, 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 and as students, we feel as though it is a right to stand up for the Charlottesville community. As much as they've given to us, we want to give back to them in an equitable and reasonable way. And so once again, as Friends of FAR, and on behalf of FAR, we are firmly against LV Collective. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming out again.
Hi everyone, my name is Sophia and I'm a community organizer with the Public Housing Association of Residents. I'm here to also speak up against LV Collective and call for zoning policy change. As you've heard for weeks and weeks, residents do not want this, students do not want this. I want to echo what Ms. Joy Johnson said last city council meeting, I believe it was, that we don't need affordable housing, we need deeply affordable housing. It is necessary to change the zoning code and provide opportunities for resident input. This city has a long history of mistreating Black and brown residents, and as city council, I believe you have the privilege to change that, to look at that history, acknowledge it, and create a better future, not just for the people that are currently alive, but the people who will come on after us. So I just wanted to echo what everyone has already said, that no one wants this and that it's time for a change. Thank you.
Thank you. Any speakers on this side?
Council, my name is Frank Bechter. I live at 6.5 Street and Dice. I want to draw your attention to regarding the 7th Street proposal for a very large apartment complex that has no affordable housing in it. I want to draw your attention to the Timmons Group's traffic impact analysis, which is a 104-page document. I don't know if you've seen it. I can send it to you. I was able to access it through a portal for permits the city has. I was able to access 5 documents. This is a 104-page document, traffic impact analysis. And what's especially interesting to me about it, I was looking through it, I was coursing through it, and it has absolutely no reference whatsoever to construction traffic. And that is not because it will just plop down from the sky and be built in one day. It says the project will be built in one phase and is expected to open in 2030. So they're predicting a 4-year construction process. And in none of those 5 documents, and not in this 104-page document specifically devoted to traffic impact, is there any reference whatsoever to construction traffic? Last meeting I was here, I asked for every department in the city, I hope that they will adopt the need for zoning alteration adjustment as a working understanding, and that therefore for such projects that are currently operating with the assumption of current zoning, that maximum scrutiny be applied to every one of those projects. And so here I just find that rather interesting that a traffic analysis makes no reference whatsoever to 4 years of construction. There will not just be cars, of course, it'll be big trucks. It's also interesting in that study that this proposed traffic, the traffic changes for my neighborhood in Fifeville are in this document. And the document is from September of this year. It notes in that document, it should be noted that the Fifeville neighborhood is undergoing implementation of one-way street conversions to enhance traffic calming. So that's interesting because I don't think anyone in my neighborhood knew that that was going to be implemented at the time that this was written or made available. And if so, if I would wish that the people conducting the study would have gone and knocked on doors as we had to do when we were requesting a traffic study, and that they would have asked people, well, what do you think of, say, on my street, 649 new trips per day being generated by this proposed development? So thanks very much.
Thank you.
Submit these, please, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, council, and hope you all had a great Thanksgiving.
Yes,
It was
sir.
a lovely time here in Charlottesville. My name is Jim Snyder. My wife and I own a house at 206B 5th Street Southwest. I'm here to speak against the 7th Street project and the project overlooking West Haven. Sometime back, I put together a package suggesting that you all consider doing an emergency legislation, because what we have here is a slow roll to a situation where you're not going to be able to stop anything. That project, the volume of materials that Frank was able to pull together, which he'll probably send you, it's hundreds of pages. And if you look at the site plan of this building, it literally goes right up to the railroad tracks. There is no turnaround at one end. There's no barrier along the railroad. There is no service road for fire along the railroad track. On the eastern end, it's right on the property, historic properties and the cottages. What you have is a plan that you paid for, and they gave you bad advice. So instead of us celebrating missing middle housing going in less obtrusive ways throughout the Charlottesville neighborhood, we now have a crisis where we have 1,600 some student housing projects which are plopping down and not going to give you long-term usage. You may know this, maybe you don't. Amtrak now has a solicitation out for joint development of the Amtrak parking lot. It's active right now. That's Zone CX. That will let you do 11 stories potentially. That's right next door to 7th Street on the other side of that railroad track. You also have the state of Virginia and putting billions of dollars into improving rail throughout the Commonwealth. You have a regional rail transit center there, and we're not planning to make that an advantage. We're just sticking willy-nilly student housing in various places without any real plan. There should be a hotel, there should be the Economic Development Authority and others working on a real plan for what West Main Street is going to be like. A real connection between the university and downtown, a partnership that's more than just plop, plop, whatever the biggest pot of money can buy. You need to take a pause. You need to take a look. We need to honor these historic neighborhoods and do the right thing by them. And we then need to really do a plan that's best for the city, the university, and most importantly, the people who live around here. I'm very concerned after hearing about the fires in Hong Kong. Imagine, we have active trains all the time. I hear them every night. A train that's right next to us, 85-foot residential building with no barrier and no pathway for a fire truck to go. Your fire department had no comments on this plan. we need to, these are important things that are coming up. There's a lot going on. We need to take a pause and do a better job planning so we can celebrate good solutions in the rest of the city where you're really trying to get affordable missing middle housing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Other comments? We'll have an opportunity again at the end of the meeting. Being no other comments now, we'll now go into the consent agenda.
And
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry.
just real quick, obviously, again, lots of comments today about student apartments. Is there a date scheduled for the January work session when we're set to discuss possible zoning changes related to these concerns?
I believe we are tentatively set for the second meeting in January, but I haven't finalized that schedule just yet.
So it'll be at the 4 p.m. work session of that
Yes,
council?
and
January 20th.
I will have confirmation at the December 15th meeting.
Great, thank you.
Thank you all for your comments. We appreciate it. We're all listening. We hear you. Consent agenda.
Consent agenda. Number 2, resolution to appropriate Virginia Department of Historic Resources grant funds to Jefferson School African American Heritage Center, $500,000, second reading. 3, a resolution to amend the FY 2026 contribution to the Charlottesville Albemarle Convention and Visitors Bureau, $167,867, one of 2 readings. 4, a resolution to appropriate Virginia Department of Education Special Nutrition Program Child and Adult Care Food Program, $25,000, one of 2 readings. 5, ordinance granting a franchise agreement to MCI Communications Services, LLC, one of 2 readings. 6, an ordinance amending City Code Section 2-38 regarding organizational meeting, one of 2 readings.
And then, if I could just request removal of item 3. There's no need for discuss or debate. I'll just be voting differently on it. But I'm fine with the rest of the consent agenda.
So, what do you mean? You want to pull that out and have a discussion?
For a separate vote.
Just for a separate vote.
I got it.
just,
I'm sorry, yes. So for the first vote, we'll vote for items 2, 4, 5, and 6. Is there a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. We'll be voting online for that. Yeah. Okay, so is there a motion to approve item number 3?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Okay, we'll vote on item number 3.
And I would,
I kind of do want to hear Michael's thoughts on it, actually.
I would just note, this is an agreement that we're part of that obligates us to spend money on the Charlottesville Albemarle Convention and Visitors Bureau. With this allocation, that amount is now up to over $1.5 million annually, which is larger than the budget for implementation of our climate action plan to reduce emissions. That amount of money would almost double our vibrant community nonprofit funding. And there's no metrics about is the CACVB actually increasing tourism or actually increasing tax revenue. We just give it money. And so that's my reason. There's no need to, I've discussed it in the past.
Yeah, and I'm on that, I represent the council for that, and I can say that, it does bring revenue to the city. When I'm giving welcomes and things, I tell, the money we get from people to stay in hotels and have dinners, it does make a difference. I'm sure that it was a boost last weekend, I should say. But, I understand,
So what are we voting on right now? On the
number
report?
3, whether we support it or not. So,
Have we already voted for the consent agenda?
Yes.
For everything else but 2, 4, 5, and 6.
yeah. So, but did you have any comments, Natalie?
No,
just
thank you
kinda
for
wanna-
explaining.
So we're now voting for item number 3 of the consent agenda. So that is going to pass 4-1.
Did you get, Madam Clerk, for the the rest of the items? Okay. I'm not sure I ever saw it come across.
Okay, so we are now at the city manager's report.
So this evening, I've invited Christine Jacobs, Executive Director for TJPDC, to come forward and give an update for council. So we'll have her present, and then I will have a couple of comments after that. Yes.
All right, good evening, Mayor, members of council. Thank you for giving me the time tonight to just come and check in on the tails of Thanksgiving. I'd like to take a moment to thank you all in return for your service as a regional body. All of you either previously or currently serve on a lot of our boards, commissions, partnerships, advisory boards. A lot of those are evening meetings. So just want to say thank you for taking the time to support regionalism and talking about issues that cross jurisdictional boundaries.
Thank you.
Excuse the cough. So the mission of the PDC, as most of you guys know, is to serve our local governments by providing regional vision, collaborative leadership, and professional service to develop effective solutions. We are planning District 10, so that's the city of Charlottesville and the surrounding counties of Albemarle, Fluvanna, Greene, Louisa, and Nelson. That is a population of just under 276,000 residents and a land area of just over 2,000 miles. So PDCs, for those of you that are not familiar, are a political subdivision of the Commonwealth. We are often mistaken as a nonprofit, but we are technically a government. We are a regional body. We're chartered under the Regional Cooperation Act, and we are designed to facilitate local government cooperation and state-local cooperation to address on a regional basis problems that are greater than local significance. So these are things that do cross jurisdictional boundaries: transportation, transit, housing, economic development, things like that. We operate under a 5-year strategic plan. Our board consists of 2 appointed or elected members from each of the 6-member jurisdictions, so 2 Charlottesville, 2 Albemarle, and so on. Under that strategic plan, it does identify 6 major policy focus areas. Those do change over time depending on where the focus is for our local governments. We do take direction from the local governments on what they are prioritizing and what they ask us to engage in. So the 6 areas approved in the most recent strategic plan are transportation and transit planning, housing and community development, environmental planning, rural broadband, legislative services, and regional and local planning. I'm going to go into each of these briefly. I know a lot of you are familiar with these because you sit on these boards, but I want to make sure just to do a general overview of all of the different things that the PDC does. So within the transportation and transit policy area, we do staff the area's required metropolitan planning organization that looks at all modes of transportation across the urbanized portion of the region, so Charlottesville and the surrounding urban area of Albemarle County. We also staff the Rural Technical Advisory Committee, so that's all the transportation planning outside of the urbanized area within the surrounding rural counties. We also facilitate the rideshare program, and that's a program that's state funded that is designed to get people to reduce the use of single occupancy vehicles and to help match people with carpool and ride pool, van pool sharing to get people out of individual cars. And then, as was spoken in the 4 o'clock session, we do quite a bit with regional transit planning. As many of you know, the Regional Transit Partnership, which has been in existence for many years, just sunset to make way for the Regional Transit Authority, with the hope that in the long term we can secure dedicated funding towards improving transit within the region. We also have what's called the PATH program, and that's a mobility management program that helps seniors and people with disabilities with accessing public transit and trying to secure emergency rides for them when public transit is not available. And then we also do a lot with regional studies, the Regional Transit Vision Plan. We conducted the study that led to the pilot program of MicroCat, really looking at transit as a regional function and how we can get connectivity throughout the region. And then we also do a lot with state and federal grant identification. These are one-off discretionary funds and or competitive funding that come out of the state or the federal programs. That's things like Safe Streets and Roads for All, which we just completed. That's applying for things like RAISE grants for bike pedestrian bridges, things of the like. Second area is housing. Excuse me. I need to get further away when I cough. For housing, we administer 2 federal programs that funding comes into the region. One of them is through HUD, and that is called the Home Consortium. And then we also, through USDA, do the Housing Preservation Grant. That's federal funding that helps preserve existing affordable housing with small repairs that can help people stay in their homes. It also can develop new units. The home funding can help develop new units. We also staff a regional housing directors coordination, so that's making sure all of the service providers and nonprofits are talking to each other and that we are helping to disseminate information about grant programs and federal compliance. And then we staff the Central Virginia Regional Housing Partnership. That's a 21-member advisory board that is made up of our 6-member jurisdictions, so that's the public portion. It also has the private sector, it has citizen representatives, and then nonprofits that serve on that advisory board. We facilitate what's called a Virginia Housing Development Grant. We were granted $2 million a couple years ago to put new units in the ground across the planning district. We were successful in getting units in all 6 of the jurisdictions. We are very, very hopeful that in the future we can hear some more information about whether or not they will repeat that grant fund. The first time was formulaic, so we got the money. It wasn't competitive. The second time it was competitive, and we are hoping we can get to the point where the entire Commonwealth can benefit and the areas that aren't more able to compete get the funding. And then we also, in this area, just like in transportation, we support any state or federal grant identification and applications on behalf of our local governments. If they need any kind of technical support, we're happy to provide that. In the area of environmental planning, we work on what's called the Watershed Improvement Program for the Chesapeake Bay. That is through the DEQ. And then we also receive some federal funding one time to do a pilot septic program to help low-income folks with either repairs and/or replacements and inspections of failing septic programs. We also piloted a rain barrel workshop in each of the 6 jurisdictions to help folks understand the collection of rainwater. We're hoping to be able to continue that program. While it was a one-time federal funding, we are trying to seek private resources through foundations to see if we can continue that work because it was very successful. We also manage the solid waste planning unit for the 4 jurisdictions that participate in this planning unit and submit the annual required recycling report on behalf of those 4-member jurisdictions. We staff the Rivanna River Basin Commission and administer their annual workshop or their conference that they hold, as well as their quarterly meetings. We do the 5-year required hazard mitigation planning effort on behalf of the entire region. By having a hazard mitigation plan in place, it does make our 6 local jurisdictions eligible for non-emergency federal funding related to mitigating hazards. We've been successful in helping some of our jurisdictions secure things like emergency generators because of that planning effort. And then again, like all areas, it'll end in state and federal grant identification, application, and implementation. This is where we are the most nimble. When folks need our support, they can call on us and we can help with technical support, data, and grant writing. 4th area is rural broadband. While this one is not specific to the city of Charlottesville, it is our largest program, so I thought it important to keep it up here. This is a multi-year initiative across 13 jurisdictions. This is the first time we went outside of our own footprint because there were economies of scale of having one administration versus multiple across multiple planning district commissions. It is a just over $350 million project that will get over 44,000 businesses and residential passings, which means eligible for high-speed broadband. So this is trying to get the rural areas connected to broadband in places where they don't already have access to high-speed internet. 5th area is legislative services. You guys are familiar with David Blunt on my team. He's the director of legislative services. This is where we help do advocacy and lobbying on behalf of our local governments related to state legislation that you all are interested in, budget amendments. He does a great job with monitoring the General Assembly and putting out newsletters and making sure both during session and off session we're following the committees and the discussions and making sure the interests of our local governments are represented. We also staff the mayor and chair's chief administrative officers quarterly meeting, and that's pulling together the CAOs and the boards and chairs to make sure they're having conversations cross-jurisdiction on things top of mind for them. And then the last one is the biggest category, but it's also the most general because this is kind of the big bucket of regional planning, is we staff the Blue Ridge Cigarette Tax Board. That is on behalf of, I believe we're up to 9 localities now. Yes, that's right, 9. I think it's 9 counties and 2 towns, so it's actually 11. We also completed, on behalf of economic development for the region, what's called a comprehensive economic development strategy. You have to have a SEDS plan in place to be eligible for a lot of EDA federal funding. So we did that on behalf of the region so that each one didn't have to do it individually, again, to get economies of scale. We also have board representation both at CVPED and the Go Virginia Region 9 Council. And then again, I'm going to just not even read the rest of these. This is the general list of things that planning district commissions do. Small area planning, long-range planning, whether that be for land use, comprehensive, transportation, all of those things. Here's the second page of that. All right, then I'm going to go to our 26 budget. This is our current fiscal year budget. You'll see a big difference between our 26 and our 27 budget. If you look at that, that's 49 million, just under 50 million in revenues. But if you look all the way down to the bottom, pass-throughs, that 47.4 million is the money that comes into our organization and goes right back out. So we have a very lean operating budget. There's personnel and there's direct operational costs related to our rent, our copiers, our phones, things like that. But the majority of that is funding that we are able to steward on behalf of the region to put into programs, housing, broadband, economic development plans that support all 6 of our member jurisdictions. You can see in the revenues, the local per capita, that is the membership dues to be a part of the Planning District Commission. I'll give you a little more detail on that in a minute. But then if you look to our FY27 budget, that's the one that's coming up. Our budget is a little off cycle from yours. We have to have a passed budget in October of the fiscal year so that the commission can set the per capita rates so that we can come out to our local governments and apply to you all for funding to support the regional efforts in your budget cycle. Our budget will then be amended again in the spring based on how successful we were with those requests. So you'll see our FY27 budget is 24 million. The significant difference that you see between 26 and 27 is because we're getting towards the tail end of that broadband grant. That was a major initiative for us. So we received both a 22 and a 24 grant. We are coming towards the tail end of the work on the 22 grant. So that's significant money that's passing through to get that broadband infrastructure out into our rural areas.
How many people did you have to hire for that? I assume you had to hire some staff,
We
to
sure did.
administer that.
We sure did. We, for VADI in particular, the Virginia Telecommunications Initiative, the nickname is VADI. For VADI specifically, we had 2 staff members, but there's a lot of support from a lot of other staff members that were already there. So obviously our finance team, administrative support, and work that both deputy director and the director are very involved in. But we only had to make 2 hires for that project.
Right.
Again, you can see in our FY27 budget, almost 22 million of the amount of funding that we receive comes in our doors and goes right back out into the community for different initiatives. And then I apologize for putting little spreadsheet tables in because they're sometimes not people's favorite, but it is how I think, color-coded in tables. So I'm going to just slap these up here for FY27. The PDC Commission approved a per capita rate of 70 cents. So broken out by population, we use Weldon Cooper's population projections in order to come up with the membership dues by jurisdiction based on population. I'll give a little bit more detail on how we spend that per capita in a second. But outside of our per capita membership, there are also direct contributions that we apply to you all through your nonprofit process, even though we're a contractual organization. So here you can see rideshare. That's where I was talking about reducing single occupancy vehicles and helping support van pools and ride sharing, solid waste planning, Rivanna River Basin Commission, the Legislative Services, the Charlottesville-Albemarle Regional Transit Authority, and the Regional Housing Partnership. Those are each programs that we ask for direct contributions to support, and that funding will go strictly towards these programs and is tracked separately from everything else. From the membership dues, you can see on the left-hand column, that's that per capita that I showed you earlier. What we primarily use our per capita for is providing the local required match for state and federal funding. So we get a lot of state grants, a lot of federal, both formula and discretionary grants, and oftentimes those come with a required local match. In some cases, it's 80% federal, 20% local, or sometimes it's as low as 4% local. We use the per capita to provide that local match so that we can take advantage of those state and federal programs. The balance of which, after you back all of those out, support pipeline planning. They support putting in applications for projects that are coming forward that we don't have a revenue source for, and then for general operational support. And I like to always end with our vision. You know, this is a lot of like numbers and programs and committees and commissions, but I think you'll find by talking to anybody that works at the PDC, the reason that the folks work where we work is because we want to help create a shared vision for our region. You know, it's really easy to get into urban versus rural, local versus regional, Charlottesville versus whomever, but I think it's really important that you know, we all recognize our citizens cross those boundaries every day, you know, whether they work, play, recreate, whatever it is. And so we care deeply about bringing the governments together to help them understand the contribution that they each make to the region and the role that they play in helping to shape it. And then our internal vision is that we like to work at the intersection of ideas, partnerships, and support to create cohesive regional community. That's what I have for you all, but I'm happy to take any questions or go into further detail and or bring it to you after the fact if I don't know it.
Thank you so much, Christine. We appreciate the work that you do. I'll start on this end. Lloyd, did you have any questions? Yeah.
Yeah, the PDC is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I guess the best kept secret of before I got involved in local government. I had no idea. And I've only been able to participate just in one sort of corner of it, but it's really remarkable the work that you all do. It's such a force multiplier in terms of being able to bring all these different funding sources together and do things for the whole region. So thank you, and thank you for your staff. Please tell your staff thank you.
I will do.
Now,
I was thinking to myself halfway through your presentation, that's it? Like, it kept going.
Yeah.
You keep doing things that are useful and good, and something that you mentioned a couple of times is the economy of scale, which is when you can be more efficient per item when you do something on a bigger scale. And so having a central hub for all of that work that you all undertake and that we participate in is it's really great. It's efficient. And, you know, I'm on a couple of boards with you all, and everything is always well prepared and thorough. And if the answer is not readily available, it's found out and passed on. And I like your description as the best kept secret, because this is, as probably a lot of people in this room have not ever seen this list or understood what the TJPDC does, because like I didn't have a concept of this that this deep before I started up here. So I don't really have any questions, but thank you for the presentation. It's good to get the full picture and not just the little slice that I occupy. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your comments.
Michael?
No, likewise, just echo what others have said. I don't have any questions, but again, echo, I feel like for a lot of citizens from the outside, the TJPDC just seems like really, really boring. And they're like, what is this thing? But as you highlighted, there's like a ton of work that's going on every single day that directly touches people's lives throughout the whole region. In addition to the things you mentioned, I mean, it just came to mind, like David Blunt, I think, has been vital in getting multiple pieces of legislation that were in our local legislative agenda passed into law, including following and tracking, you know, committee politics at a very granular level. The housing needs assessment that you all did before the pandemic directly informed the city's approach to our comprehensive plan update and affordable housing strategy. The regional transit vision plans, you know, I think kickstarted the move to CARTA and hopefully finding a funding source for it. Y'all are directly involved in the Cherry Avenue small area plan. So, you know, I know Sean Tubbs will cover TJPDC meetings, but outside of him, there's not a whole lot of coverage. So I just encourage people in the community to understand how much direct impact that TJPDC has, and check out meetings, you know, read agenda packets they're doing there, because it's there's not a lot of drama, but there's a lot of big things happening there.
Yeah. Must be nice to hear no drama, boring. I mean, but that's a good, yes. Yes.
I've seen very rarely. I mean, occasionally. It's not like we're sitting on our hands or anything. But. One quick question. So you do have money to renovate the building?
We do.
That is lovely.
Yeah, we are really intentional about our
Because that
capital
one room
reserve.
that we always go into,
It will
always
have
come
new
out of a
floors and
migraine.
new paint and new,
Yeah,
yes.
that's awesome.
We are going to be doing an extensive effort. We have a really intentional capital reserve policy. We do rent our space, and so about every 5 years when we negotiate our lease, there's always a discussion about buying a building versus staying down on the downtown mall. We have really favorable rates, and so the decision was made by the commission to stay where we are, to make sure that we have a civic space on the downtown mall, but that we needed to do some upgrades to that space that has
Good.
been neglected.
Well, I just want to say, I mean, it wasn't a secret to me because 20 years as a planner for the county, I was there probably 50% of my time because of the meetings I was doing as a transportation planner. So I knew of the work. I think David is the only lasting person there, but the community would just be a lot different if the work that you are doing, not just this community, the region. So thank you so much, Christine. We appreciate you. You've really done a great job since you've been there. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Thank you, Christine. Yeah, there's a couple of things I have. CPD hosted another successful gun buyback event a couple weeks back. We got 58 guns off the street. That's always a good thing. And we want to thank Pastor Edwards and Mount Zion Church for their partnership. And there'll be more events like that and others that are all aimed at trying to interrupt gun violence in our community. There will be a CIP public hearing. This is for the benefit of the public to understand that on the 9th of December, here in this chamber, a joint meeting of council and the Planning Commission will occur. This is a part of the budget process. We presented to the Planning Commission last week the proposed CIP, that's our capital improvement program, so how we do streets and roads and various investments and various things that you expect the city to do. Those things are a part of that particular document. It'll be available for discussion as a part of a public hearing next week. That meeting starts at 6. There is another item on the agenda ahead of it, so 6:15-ish. For anyone who might want to be a part of that particular conversation, and it is a public hearing, so you'll have a chance
What
to
date
speak.
is that
That's
again?
on Tuesday, the 9th.
That's a
Also,
joint public hearing with City Council.
I'm sorry?
It's a joint public hearing with City Council.
Correct. Yeah, so that'll be a chance for the public to hear. It's important in that moment because part of the budget building process that we're in right now, it is what I am spending a lot of time on. A lot of staff members are working to pull the budget together, and it's a chance for the public to actually participate in that process. And at the next meeting, I'll be confirming for everyone, we'll be doing a series. I'll be hosting a series of community budget sessions. Instead of one event, we will probably have 3. And the goal will be to do it in different locations, and again, give more opportunities for the public to engage with us and speak about issues of concern to them, take a look at how we put the budget process together, and I can tell you that the Monopoly game will return because that seemed to be a hit. So we'll make sure that happens. The last thing that I have is that we all should be aware now that there is current weather, inclement weather proposed for this area coming into the area overnight. Please be safe. Please pay attention. There could be freezing conditions, so stay off the roads if you can. We appreciate you staying out of the way for any accumulation clearing that has to occur. Also, city operations have not been adjusted at this time. We have an early morning call. This is our process, and we'll make a determination on whether we will delay or have an interruption in basic operations for the day. That's my report.
Thank you. We'll now go to the action items. The first one is a public hearing and resolution to consider in the exercise of eminent domain for the acquisition of right-of-way and easement for the Barracks Road and easement in Emmett Streetscape Project. And Glenn Cooper with Public Works. So, yes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Mayor Wade, City Council, City Manager Sanders. Again, I'm Lee Cooper with the Capital Development Division, Project Manager for right-of-way acquisition. The listed agenda, as outlined in the package, is associated, as mentioned, with the Barracks Emmett Intersection Streetscape Project related to the easement acquisition process. We, to date, have acquired 9 of the 11 needed easement properties, if you will, right-of-way and easements. These 2 last remaining parcels will clear that project for the process of getting to construction. The listed properties are tax parcel number 10004,000. We're getting some permanent street easements and some temporary easements associated with the project. The next parcel, tax map 10005 000. Again, we're obtaining some right-of-way, cleaning up some prescriptive right-of-way areas and some temporary construction easement area. Again, the city will continue to work with the property owners to come to an agreement. Again, this step gets us closer to construction. And as the council knows, this project has been with us for quite a while. So staff recommends council approve the measure after the public hearing, and I'll be glad to take any questions if there are any.
Okay, so before we open the public hearing, we'll see if staff has a question. Natalie, do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, Brian?
No.
Lloyd?
Nope.
Michael?
No questions.
Okay, so I now open up the public hearing. Would anyone in the audience like to speak on this? I will now, Peter?
Good evening, council and members of the public. I'm Peter Krebs from the Piedmont Environmental Council. We protect and restore the soils, water, air, and lands of the Virginia Piedmont while working with communities to create strong, resilient neighborhoods, communities, and towns. I'm here to speak in favor of the action that you're considering. I said that we are all about protecting the environment, but actually protecting the environment and preserving rural lands requires having good, healthy, walkable places for people to live in towns. In my own work, I work mainly in Charlottesville and urban Albemarle County, and we're working with the city and the county on a number of projects. And over, we have come across sort of an invisible barrier that works in the process of developing trails and sidewalks and even roads sometimes, which is that in the American jurisprudence, oftentimes landowners have a sort of invisible veto that they can exercise simply by not returning the phone call from the government. And as I was reading through the staff report, I remarked on a couple of things, and some of it resonated with your earlier 4 o'clock presentation. One is that the city did reach out to the landowners. It's not like this is being done, secretly or anything. It's been very public, and in fact are having a public hearing. And your job is to determine whether this is in the public interest or not. And I'm here to assure you that it is. The project has been in analysis for a really long time. It hasn't been easy for the city to come to consensus with many of the neighboring landowners, but you did it somehow. These last couple are just not returning your call. I think you should go forward and duly compensate the landowner. That's key. And then also another thing that was mentioned in the staff report is that transportation projects often die because just time, like escalation. Time is really money when doing these projects. The staff emphasized that doing this will help this project get done in a timely manner. Being done in a timely manner is akin to having the project done at all. So please strongly consider voting yes for this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Other comments? If not, I will close the public hearing and bring it back to council for further discussion. Whether this is, we will vote on this tonight. So if there are any other questions for staff?
Is this a single?
Yes, it looks.
Yeah. And I have no objections, and I think this is necessary to move these projects forward.
Mm-hmm.
I would just note for the record, it's just unfortunate the original scope of this project was a much larger bike and pedestrian path with a deeper connection to, get closer to Preston, but a concern that adjacent landowners were too wealthy and would be able to get high-powered lawyers force the city to reduce the scope, which I just think is unfortunate, but no objection to what's in front of us tonight.
So can I get a motion to?
Yeah, I move the resolution in the packet authorizing the acquisition for public purposes by purchase or condemnation of real property for the Barracks Road and Emmons Streetscape project.
Second.
Okay, can we vote on this?
Connection to.
Okay. The motion.
Yeah, okay, sorry.
Okay. I think it passes 5. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, sir. The next item on the agenda is an ordinance of the city code to define the school zones for all schools and reflect their current names. This is the first of 2 readings. Mr. Rodland?
Kyle Rodland.
Yes.
Safe Routes to School Coordinator. Good evening, everybody. I'm just going to see if these slides are working here. Okay, great. Yeah, so we are working to kind of define, almost redefine school zones. Just a little bit of background on this effort. It kind of speaks to kind of what we touched on earlier in the previous session with, it kind of came out of citywide efforts to reduce speed limits and traffic calming. So more of the background on this is over the past year, we've been upgrading the school zone flashing, the flashers infrastructure have been upgraded with a new radio system so that we can control them remotely, so that these flashing lights are accurate to the timing of the schools. Currently, the existing locations don't cover all the streets that are eligible to be school zones. Basically, some schools that can have school zones don't have some school zones, so it's kind of missing. Not all the school zones that we have currently have flashers. The city code doesn't reflect at all the recent school name changes. And we went to the school board with this, and they formally requested this update in October. So the goals of the school zone update, as far as the code is, if we change the code here, the goals of this are to clearly define what the school zones are, where they are, and to basically create a standard for school zones and to define what infrastructure is in every school zone. So there's a standard that all these school zones are brought up to baseline. And then this will also allow us to, once we're creating new school zones, to update current school zones with better and up-to-date technology, to slower speed limits and traffic calming. And then once we kind of have all this in place, it gives us a better relationship with CPD, and it gives them the ability to kind of enforce all of the laws and regulations that come along with the school zones, kind of without question and a lot more efficiently. So to update the code, what we need to do in the code is update the school names that have changed. We need to include the schools that are missing that aren't previously listed in what the code states where the school zones are, basically. And then clearly define the placement of the school zone and those flashers, meaning the distance from schools and things like that, so it's consistent citywide. So we're looking for standards and consistency as far as school zones go. And this will also take the maximum speed limit, which is currently 25, and I'll bring it down to 15 citywide. The next steps is to adopt the ordinance, which will be in the second reading. And then we'll start the purchase of additional school zone flashers, signs. Along with this, we'll do some other things, roadway markings, and also consider what these standards are, and apply those citywide. And then also changing the speed limit on Melbourne, which is west of the John Warner Parkway. It's currently 35. And then we want to reduce it to 25, which would give us a school zone of 15. And then assessment of all the current school zones and infrastructures, bringing it up to that baseline of all what the standards are. And then with this, we can basically predict and kind of plan for what the future school zones capital needs are. That's it. That's the shortest presentation I've ever given.
Yeah.
It was kind of painful because I like to talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
So, do you have any questions?
Is there one ordinance, or, I mean, what are we voting on? The ordinance?
Well, we're not voting tonight, but.
What would we be voting on?
It's an ordinance amendment.
I see the ordinance 2025 school zones amendment, and I see resolution to amend the city school.
So Councilman, the resolution is included. That's the school board's resolution asking the city council to take this action.
Correct. That's just for reference for you.
Uh,
I
Lloyd-
would,
oh,
if I could, I just want to also add that, as Kyle just mentioned towards the end, that is part of, I guess, the question that came up earlier about are we studying lowering speed limits across the city, and the preference would be that we don't miss an opportunity to do some things now. This is an example of how we are doing that. As he's pursuing this upgrade, we're also lowering speed limits right now as it relates to kids walking to school and riding bikes to school, but it is all a part of that whole process to update that through serious consideration of do we make it permanent everywhere else.
Lloyd, any questions on?
Yeah, two things, which I raised in an email to you and to Mr. Maddox.
Right.
One, just so the public will know what I'm talking about, there's a point in the resolution that at page 62 of the packet where there's a reference to 750 feet underlined at the next to the last line there, which reflects a 2023 statutory change out of Richmond. And then above it, like 10 lines above it, there's a reference to 600 feet. And in the statute, it uses 750 both places. And when I contacted Mr. Maddox about it, he said, well, we can either make it 600 both places or 750 both places. We'll figure it out and we'll get back to you by the time of the second reading.
Right.
Is that?
That's exactly what's going to happen.
Okay.
Yep.
And then the second issue, the more I've thought about it, the more I'm thinking I'm not understanding. We've used the term fixed blinking sign because that's the term that the statute uses, but I'm not sure that I know what that means. I can't, for example, we just had a sign put up near Greenbrier School where it tells you, it blinks at you and tells you what your speed is. Mm-hmm. Is that the fixed blinking sign contemplated by this statute, by this ordinance?
No, the fixed blinking sign would be the actual, the flashing kind of wig-wag yellow lights. So the one that tells you the speed is just a radar sensing this is your speed. So that would not be defined. That speed sign wouldn't be under this definition.
So only when, I mean, and the what you call the wig-wagging yellow lights, those are intended to be wig-wagging during the time that students are likely to be in the area, either like 8 o'clock in the morning,
correct,
3 o'clock in the afternoon,
correct,
but not, as in my example, not at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
And so when I came home last night at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I drove past that sign, and it was blinking at me, telling me how fast I was going, that's not the blinking sign that this contemplates.
Correct.
And if it's blinking at you, I believe that means you're going too fast.
Actually, I think it blinks at me even if I'm going at the right speed. It just blinks white instead of red.
Got it, okay.
Yeah.
Just to get their attention.
Good.
It's not that I would
Just want to make sure you're getting home safely.
Yeah.
It did a good job. It got your attention.
Yeah.
Right?
It's meant to
You
get
knew
your
how fast
attention.
you were going.
Okay.
Is that it, Lloyd?
Yeah.
Brian, any questions?
No.
Michael?
I don't have any questions.
Okay. Okay.
Council members, I do think it might be helpful if you could provide some guidance. Would you prefer 750 feet as the maximum limit for these signs, or the 600 feet, which was previously in the statute?
Why should we care? What difference
Yeah,
does it
what would the
actually
staff
make?
recommend? I mean, that's,
Just there is an inconsistency in there. I thought it best to ask the council
Yeah.
before we
Yeah.
went forward.
I can speak to what that might mean as far as the code goes.
Okay.
So what, as it states, it would be a maximum length. So if you said 600 feet from the property line of a school would be the maximum that you can put a flashing sign.
This is not more than.
Not more than,
750.
yeah. So if we say 750, we can still put it at 600 or 400 or 300.
So 750 gives you more leeway to more flexibility.
Correct.
Okay.
750.
Yep.
Sounds good to me.
I'm fine with that.
Yep. Natalie, did you have any questions or comments on this?
No, thank you. This makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I think that, can we put this on the consent agenda for the next meeting?
Sure.
Okay. The next item is a resolution approving the 8th Amendment to the grant agreement for the Charlottesville Supplemental Rental Assistant Program.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Made it a little shorter than last time.
Okay.
Good evening, I'm
Good
Madeline Metzler, the Acting Housing Program Manager with Neighborhood Development Services, and tonight I'll be presenting a resolution to approve the 8th Amendment to the grant agreement for the Charlottesville Supplemental Rental Assistance Program, known as CISREP. I'll begin with a brief overview of CISREP and share some updates on the program's performance. Then I'll highlight the key changes included in the proposed amendment, provide an update on our planned program evaluation, and close with our staff recommendation and action we're requesting from council. CISREP is our locally funded and administered rental assistance program designed to help fill the gaps between the need for rental assistance in our community and the availability of federal housing vouchers. It's a partnership between the city and Charlottesville Redevelopment and Housing Authority, known as CRHA, which administers the program. The city allocates funding annually through our capital improvement program budget, and the program is renewed through annual amendments to the grant agreement, which brings me here tonight. Currently, the program is serving 68 households, and that includes 83 adults and 91 children. All participating households have an income that are at or below 30% of the area median income. That is a slight change that's occurred over time. In 2020, there were 77% of households were in that category of 30% or less, and that has increased to 100% over time. And the average monthly rent is just under $1,500, and the CISREP provides an average of just over $1,000 in assistance, which covers around 72% of the monthly rent. Average monthly rent has increased by 40% in that same time period from FY20 to FY 2026. Oh, I'm not ready for that. Yes, I am. In August, when I provided an update to all of you about this program, we requested an extension of the current agreement, and we had a goal of using that time to do 3 things. Review and revise the agreement, develop a work plan for a full program evaluation, and identify a funding source for software to support program administration. I'm pleased to report that we've accomplished all 3 of those items. In September, I met with Executive Director of CRHA, Mr. John Sales, and our Neighborhood Development Services Director, Kelly Brown, to review the agreement, and together we identified areas for immediate updates and others that will be explored further through our evaluation. The immediate changes that are reflected in the 8th Amendment include 3 key updates. 2 of them are in the category of admissions preferences and the waiting list. First, we clarified that CRHA maintains separate wait lists for its CSRAP program and the Housing Choice Voucher program that it also administers. And we also revised the rental assistance priorities. So we'll continue to prioritize households that are experiencing homelessness and or enrolled in a local self-sufficiency program. But we did remove the minimum and maximum thresholds for those categories to simplify administration of the wait list. For reference, the maximum for the self-sufficiency program was 40 participants, and the program has never gone above that. And the minimum was 15 for homeless participants, and the program is currently at 27, and that is something we see consistent. So that was really something we might evaluate more in the program evaluation if we need to have those maximum or minimums, but at the very least, we could simplify the process, and that was a recommendation from CRHA. Regarding administrative funding, the amendment increases CRHA's allowable administrative funding from 10% to 12.5% of the annual allocation. And the resolution also allows for up to $20,000 of this FY26 allocation to be used for software that will improve waitlist management and quarterly reporting. And that covers 2 of the 3 check marks up there. The third item that we worked on was devising a work plan for program evaluation. That is included in your packet as attachment C. This evaluation will ask whether the program is meeting its goals and whether its design aligns with the housing priorities and the needs of our community. The evaluation will include input from program participants, referral agencies, CRHA staff who work on the program, and our Housing Advisory Committee throughout the process. This work will take place over the course of the next 6 months, and we plan to return to council in the final quarter of FY26 to provide an update on our findings and recommendations based on that evaluation. So in summary, staff recommends approval of the resolution to approve the 8th Amendment to the grant agreement for SISREP, which includes a not-to-exceed amount of $900,000. And thank you for your time. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. So this is not a public hearing. Before we begin, Sam, we had been having conversation with former Mayor Walker. Is this, I know, but it's different aspects of this program. I'm not sure if this is.
No, this is not addressing that directly.
Okay.
I felt like that was going to be a matter to come up, so I prepared some notes just to help you in considering this item. When Madeline came to you before, she asked for an extension of available funds to get us through this evaluation period. During that period, we lost our housing program manager. We have not been able to do everything that we wanted to do. We really revisited the approach that we wanted to take. That's the work plan that she's identified that is in your packet. And we really want to take that really measured process of going through and evaluating a program that we've now been funding for 8 years.
It began in FY 2018.
Yeah, so this program's been going since 2018. There hasn't been an increase to the amount of money that we make available each year, so that will be part of the evaluation. But we did learn of significant delinquencies that were occurring in the Kindlewood property today, formerly Friendship Court. And in studying that, we see that there are serious delinquency and rent collections of individuals who are in the legacy property, which is the area that has not been redeveloped at this point, as well as individuals who have moved into the new units, and they're significant. Those delinquencies come up to a significant amount. That in itself says that there's a problem, and we now need to try to solve for that problem. What we're not necessarily aware of at this time is why are the rents not getting paid when the AMI restrictions suggest that there's money available to pay rent. But no one is actually doing the intervention work with the households to do assessments of their financial management and other challenges that they may face. So part of the conversation that we're having right now is that we really see that there's a need for that direct intervention, and that is probably the request that I'll be coming back to make to you. Our goal is to try to make that separate from the SISREP program because we want to make sure that the funding is available to continue to support the 68 households that are relying on this program, but to give us a chance to come back to you with a real, I would say, what we deem to be an effective approach to really getting in and trying to figure out what is happening in the households that are struggling with being able to meet their rent obligation at this time, and if there's a need for you to consider, I shouldn't say if there's a need, there's obviously a need, but the question is, would you be willing to entertain some erasure of the delinquency in exchange for certain parameters that we might be able to set up with working with those households? We're trying to wrap our arms around exactly what a program like that would be.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely be supportive of that, but, you know, they have the Financial Opportunity Center, which I thought was supposed to address it, so.
And we think there's capacity concerns there, which is why the intervention of maybe expanding that capacity so that more case management could be made available. That's part of what we're figuring out so that we can bring that back to you.
I think their priority should be residents of, because it's a component of the PHA.
Right.
But
I know
That's separate from this.
That's separate from this, but I knew that we would,
Yeah,
I knew
yeah.
that there would be this moment of connecting the two because of what
Yes.
we are aware of. And I wanted to be responsive to the idea that we have not lost sight of the fact that there are residents that are struggling to meet their rent obligation. We've had conversations with PHA. We do not anticipate evictions of any kind at this present time. The concern is rising, which is why we're trying to work with them to figure out what is the direct intervention that we can put together.
And I know we're a little far afield, but
Yeah.
I do think it's, relevant enough. I'll just offer, CRHA has also had a fairly significant amount of delinquencies and rents that are in arrears, several $100,000s annually, and HUD has dinged them for it. And there are many causes, and, the CRHA put together a plan for people who are, delinquent on rent they're contacted via certified mail, phone call, knocking on their door. At least the plan on paper is if through any of those contacts, they could get on a payment plan adjusted to whatever their current income is. Their rent could be adjusted if their income situation changed. Some people took those opportunities. A lot of the people who are still delinquent on rent just never returned any of those contact attempts. And during the pandemic, the city wiped away rents that were delinquent, but it didn't fix the problem at all. The problem was the exact same, and we are where we are at that point. And everyone's situation is different, but at least what I've heard from CRHA is a good number of situations come down. CRHA has this plan for interventions, but are there the staff and people in place to actually implement it out on the ground? And then there's a number of people who may be dealing with mental health, addiction issues. You may have seniors where maybe someone is mismanaging their finances and not telling them the full situation of what's going on. And a lot of those kind of things are the situations of people who are behind on rent there. So I'll just offer that I know we've had a lot of work sessions on CRHA about that same issue.
Yeah. John's sales is on Zoom, by the way, if it,
Yeah, and I acknowledge that that's part of what complicates this. I think the good thing for me in this is I've spent a lot of time in this space as part of my past life and recognize that simply wiping away the delinquency isn't the answer. You really got to get in and diagnose what the real problems are that are contributing to that. And that's really what we're investing our time right now in trying to figure out. It's the case management component. That's what's missing. That is what we needed when we erased the issue before, because that's the symptom, that's not the problem. And I think that's really what I want to be able to make sure that we focus on. If I came in and asked you to eliminate the delinquency today, a year from now, we'd be right back in the same situation, more than likely.
So what's in front of us tonight is this Eighth Amendment.
To move the program forward is what we're basically saying, to
And
release
it's-
the funds and allow the program to
Is it
continue
something
as
we
is.
vote on tonight with a single vote?
Yes.
I believe so.
Yes.
I'd be happy to move the resolution unless people have other.
I do have a question. For the wait list, so the wait list management software is one of the things you mentioned. With separate ones for SysRap and the Housing Choice Voucher Program, how long are those wait lists, and how often do people come off of them?
John is available on Zoom, yes.
Hey, John.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. So currently the HCV wait list is about 1,700 families. And the SysRap wait list is about 50 to 60 families. We have not removed families off of the HCV wait list because the Housing Authority has had a shortfall in the HCV program the last 2 years. And that happens when the rents increase drastically. And so we have seen that in the HCV program where we were previously paying around $850 per voucher. We're now paying around $1,100 per voucher. And so last year we had a $1.5 million shortfall. This year it was around $100,000. And so we weren't able to remove families from the wait list to give them vouchers to search for housing. The SysRap program has not been the same. And so as folks come off the program, we add families. But that program is only a tenth of the size of the voucher program.
Okay, thanks. And so just to clarify, the Housing Choice Voucher Program helps people make the gap between like a market rate unit and what they're able to pay.
Correct, and that's the same. Program was created to mirror the HCV program, but it was city funded instead of federally funded.
Yeah, so they both do that, just different pots of money.
Yeah, so if market rate rent is lower, the voucher goes further.
Goes further,
Or
right.
you can have more vouchers
Presumably,
available.
right.
Right, okay, got it.
You can't use a voucher if rent is above a certain amount, correct?
That's correct, right, John?
Yes, that is correct. So we complete a rent reasonableness test, and that looks at the rents in the area as well as the utilities it costs to run that unit, because it's an all-in cost, not just rent alone.
Okay, great, thanks for that clarification.
Okay. So,
Yeah, I would move the resolution in the packet approving this.
Councilman, if I may, this does require 2 readings. We're appropriating money that requires 2 readings under our code, and it cannot be waived.
Okay.
I believe the money was already appropriated with the original budget. We just didn't have the grant agreement to move forward with the funds.
So are we appropriating money with this or not? I believe we were.
We're not.
The financial impact statement on here says the city has allocated 900. This request does not require additional city funding as the funds are part of the CIP.
If that,
I mean, just to be cautious, should we do 2 readings?
I've never really cared for the interpretation that because something was previously allocated as part of the CIP, it doesn't require the 2 readings under our code. I do believe it requires 2 readings by my interpretation. We've been doing that more consistently
It looks
lately.
like the funds were appropriated with the city budget, with the budget approval in April.
But, so are we adding funds or are we not?
No, we're not adding. It's the same amount that was in the budget.
If we're not adding funds, then then it does not require a second reading.
Yeah, it's not.
Thank you for that clarification.
It's the same allocation of $900,000 that was a part of your budget that you approved for this fiscal year.
Just slightly different rules.
Yeah, just rules are, the rules changes are the only things that's different, but they're not financial in nature.
Okay. So I think we can do it tonight.
Okay.
I'm not an attorney, but I think so, so I'm just
Yeah.
making sure he's okay.
No, if that's the case, then yes.
That is the case.
Okay.
Just one question. So in the agenda, there's the work plan, and the current timeline is to recommend more extensive changes in July of next year. Obviously, there's a lot of vacancies, and I know, hiring is underway, but is that timeline realistic given the current staffing situation?
We think that it is. We do plan to engage potentially with some outside consultants on a portion of that evaluation, mostly in helping with some of the community engagement and analysis of some of the quantitative data that we'll be collecting through surveys and community engagement. So we didn't feel the need to change the timeline at this point in time.
Mm-hmm. And then one final question for John Sales. Obviously, the intent of this program was to be kind of a temporary voucher for self-sufficiency. What is the rate at which people are kind of moving off the voucher because they've increased their financial self-sufficiency?
I will say that is not happening often. We have a lot of the same families that entered the program in 2018 for self-sufficiency still in the program. The families that have moved off have typically moved off to get to a voucher program, or they moved out the area, and this assistance can only go to Albemarle County and the city of Charlottesville.
Thank you. So I think obviously that's the core of the conversation over the next year.
That's one of the main concerns.
Okay, I think we're ready.
Yeah, I would move the resolution approving the 8th Amendment to grant agreement for the Charlottesville Supplemental Rental Assistance Program.
Second?
Okay. Okay, motion passes 5-0. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. The next item on the agenda is approval of the Regional Mutual Aid Emergency Response Agreement.
And I'm going to take this item. I spoke with the chief about the fact that I would step in on this one because this is really about regional mutual aid. In your packet, what you see is the item has already been signed off, but therefore approved by the Board of Supervisors for the county, as well as the leadership at the University of Virginia. This is our longstanding regional agreement as it relates to emergency response and mutual aid, specifically for our police department. The fire department has signed theirs separately. This is really an opportunity for us to focus on updating these agreements. Many of the agreements date back to the 80s and 90s. They don't really reflect some of the operational changes that have occurred. And one of the key matters for me has been to make sure that all of our updates, all of our agreements, one, that we have an agreement, Two, any agreement that we have that's a longstanding agreement has been revisited, and we have been able to update those with adding the appropriate language, acknowledging that the county has changed dramatically in the way of its own performance of emergency management. They've grown up is the way I kind of refer to it. So in that, and they've been able to make sure that these agreements have been edited. We have signed a couple of agreements already. We're right now having conversations about the Emergency Communications Center agreement as a joint jurisdictional arrangement, looking at their bylaws as well as the operating agreement, and those documents will come to you next year. So this is all cleaning up these standing agreements to make sure that they reflect what's actually happening today and how we want the responsibility of emergency management to be carried out.
So it looks like the last time there was an agreement here was in 2004?
Last time we made a change. So it was probably written in a way that it would perpetually update. And then we did not take any time to take a look at it since then.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of what my request and others have responded to the idea that I'm sure something has changed since 2004. And maybe
Is
we
there
should
any
take a look.
substantive change?
No, we didn't really make any major changes here. We made sure that we clarified by making the references more specific so that they reference Albemarle County has a full fire department or the police department is able to do certain things. We had what was more of a mutual aid agreement where we did more work in the county on their behalf. That's been pulled back because they do most of their stuff themselves because they've grown to being able to do that. And that's really part of what the sentiment has been about updating these agreements to make sure that they reflect what's actually happening.
Is there anything in this 10-page document that has any financial consequences for
No.
the city?
Anything that would be financial, we would have brought separately. We have a mutual aid agreement with the University of Virginia where they compensate us for fire service, so that's an example of a moment like that. Everything else has really been through overtime arrangements or something like that where we get reimbursed for our various expenses.
So that was actually going to be one of my questions, if I can jump in.
Yep.
At the very end, there's or close to the end, actually, not at all, on page 6. Sorry. There's a liability immunity waiver section that says no reimbursement. That says no reimbursement expected unless expressly agreed to in a separate scenario. And so I know we have that with UVA for the fire department. Do we also have that with UVA for the police department?
So the chief is on. I guess we can let him speak to that specifically because I'm not aware.
Yeah. The answer is yes, Counselor, we do. We have a separate MOU that talks about how we are, or how our officers are compensated for like working football games and stuff of that nature. But that's a separate MOU.
Okay, so like pre-scheduled assistance, not like there's a need for you on grounds, hurry up, everybody go. That's not compensated.
Right. That wouldn't be compensated.
Yeah,
the
it's not
fire
something
department
that you would
compensated
handle.
in that way?
Yeah, and vice versa.
Say that again. What was
I'm sorry, what's the question?
Sorry, is the fire department compensated for the emergencies or just for pre-scheduled activities?
Emergencies.
Okay.
That's the reason for it, because they need us to respond
'cause UVA
specifically,
doesn't have
and they
a fire
have a police
department, but they
department,
do
so they
have a
can
police
do a lot
department.
themselves. Yeah.
Got it.
That's the
Gotcha,
difference.
okay. And for the, and you mentioned maybe revisiting that financial arrangement?
Always willing to revisit a financial arrangement.
The other question I have is, has there been, I know we had some feedback when city officers were used by the university to disrupt the protests earlier last spring. Has there been any adjustment to this based on that feedback?
No. If, like any mutual aid agreement, you look at page, hold on, let me find that page. We can, if we are asked for mutual aid, depending on the situation, both us, UVA, and Albemarle County, for whether it be an emergency management request, a police services request, anything like that, you can deny that request or ask, depending on what the situation is. That situation was different, something like that. They needed extra resources because it was right on the border of the city. Obviously, it wound up coming into the city. So because it's so close, something like that, we typically would be involved because it really is, it did come into the city, it went up the street, we had to close streets within the city, stuff like that.
Yeah, I think the feedback was less concerned with the closing of the streets than with the kind of violence that erupted. And I seen the authority paragraph too. It's the final sentence is nothing in this agreement requires mutual aid or emergency response services to be provided if requested. So I know there is, that kind of slippery slope for we didn't show up for you, so you're not going to show up for us problem that this whole agreement is trying to kind of avoid. But is there an internal document we can work on to, I don't know, manage our own response or the limits we're willing to go to so that that kind of violence doesn't?
I really think what you're getting at speaks to the operational decisions. In that particular moment, the chief was a part of the conversations leading up to the actions that were ultimately taken. Therefore, he was able to say, we can do this and not this. And the posture that we took was that we were crowd control. We did not actively engage in removal of any one person or property. And I think that was probably the position that we will strive for, and recognizing that if we're going to handle things a certain way in the city jurisdiction, then if you ask us to come and join you on grounds or even in the county, we would more or less assume that same posture. And we did have conversation about that during the execution of that particular activity. And he can tell you that I was very concerned about what are we going to do and would we do that ourselves? And we didn't do certain things that we knew that would have been different than what we would have handled in our own jurisdiction.
Mm-hmm. Is there any way to kind of formalize that?
I think it really
or
comes
have
down.
Additional conversations.
I think really it's operational. I see it as that, and it's more about his relationship with his peers and being able to say to them, we're not going to do this or that. We're not going to get them to sign an agreement that says we may or may not show the way you ask us to. But it does say that we will coordinate, and that is a discussion, and we can choose to not do that. And that's really what I think we will have to continue to do. Okay. Internally, that conversation is between the two of us for sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
So if it's not known right now, that's fine, but just at in ballpark number, how much money does UVA provide to Charlottesville for fire services?
If I remember correctly, it's right at $500,000. I think it's for something.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And similarly, about how much is UVA providing Charlottesville for our police services?
There's no direct compensation of police services. In that instance of police service and fire service that is not truly responding to an active fire on grounds where someone has to respond, that is all through overtime. So it's off-duty compensation that they cover those expenses.
Is the scale of that tracked or known in terms of?
Is that listed in the revenue of our budget?
We can pull that for you. We have that. I don't have that readily available. Chief, do you have any sense of off-duty services?
I don't have those specific numbers, but I can get that. But that would just include, football games, basketball games, sporting events, and concerts and stuff like that we assist with and are reimbursed for. Add to, being called, like for instance, the Internet Library, was it about 2-3 weeks ago, where the call came in of an active violent incident. We weren't reimbursed for that. That wouldn't be something we would be reimbursed for. Just like UPD, if we have an emergency event, our officers are often tied up on calls and an emergency comes out within the joint patrol area. UPD will actually respond because we won't have an officer to respond. So it kind of goes both ways. Same with Albemarle County. We would...
We have lost him.
Your
I
audio went out, but we got most of it.
Yeah, continuing his thought is that we there we go.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So it is.
That's okay, Chief. It seems like it's a week.
Your connection, Chief, your connection's not good. You can,
That's okay.
I think we got it. I think ultimately what his point that he's making is that
All right, thank you.
our response to a request for service is not compensated, because that's more a part of this jurisdictional response, that we go to the county, we go to university whenever we're needed, because they can't handle everything, and vice versa. If we have something that's big enough that we can't be responsive to a call because our officers are tied up, all on-duty officers are tied up for some big response, if there's still a request for service, someone can respond, and it's through that relationship that we would get someone to be able to take care of that.
Yeah, and, obviously the concern is, I know what's in front of us is procedural in a lot of ways, but, it is directly connected to those funding agreements, and, that's great that there's compensation for some overtime. Obviously, UPD exists, but, the UVA and the UVA community rely a lot on CPD for numerous things, and I think, I would guess that, the UVA community is having to rely on CPD fairly frequently. And I think there's a lot of also just, far beyond overtime, a lot of indirect costs coming from that, which I just don't think is, a fair arrangement for the city to be relying on our services while not paying any property taxes and having, an endowment of tens of billions of dollars, $2+ billion annual operating budget, and you don't pay any property taxes, but you rely on our service. It's just doesn't add up to me.
Yeah.
How often is UPD responding because CBD cannot?
We'd have to look that up for you. I don't know that we have that readily available. I think there's some data points that we can pull together for you and share that maybe in a future update as well.
So you're looking for basically...
It's by motion, because this is really just you're authorizing my signature on the agreement to match our peer counterparts.
Other questions? I know you have requested some information. Staff will get that information to you. Is there a motion to approve the agreement?
I would move the approval of the agreement in the package, mutual aid and emergency response agreement.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second. Can't figure out how they get out of whack.
If you can't do it, you can let Keena know.
The answer is yes.
Okay.
I would just note for the record, the rationale for my no reason. I think revisiting these things should come along with revisiting the financial commitments that UVA makes to Charlottesville as well. And I think the city just has to have an aggressive posture of demanding that from UVA.
Thank you. We're now at the opportunity for the second public comment. And would anyone from the public like to speak? Yes.
Good evening. My name is Terry Tyree again. I'm a resident at South First Street, a FAR intern, and chapter leader at Virginia Organizing. First, I wanted to highlight that since I heard someone speak about a public access program, I took the opportunity at Charlottesville Media Center, and I tomorrow will be recording a new show. So I would like to introduce to the community a new community-centered project called Open Mic, Open Hearts. This is a bi-weekly show created for Charlottesville by me, a space where residents can speak their truths, showcase their creativity, share local issues, and uplift one another through poetry, music, storytelling, and community voice. And I start recording tomorrow at the studio, and so we aired a week after that, I think on Mondays. Again, it's called Open Mic, Open Hearts. And so that was on a good note, positive note. I'm excited about that tomorrow. But I do want to bring, again, to council an issue in regards to my reasonable accommodation request. I live at South First Street, which is a CRHA property. And I believe in, I'm just going to state the same thing I stated at the CRHA board meeting, which is that I believe in accountability, transparency, and in fair treatment for every resident of public housing and every participant in the HCV program. On November 6th at 1 p.m., in a meeting with the executive director, John Sales, he stated directly to me that there were a bunch of sites with 2 or 3 bedroom units that accept housing choice vouchers, and he would be willing to transfer me to. This was not a vague suggestion. It was not hypothetical. It was a statement made by the executive director of CRHA in a meeting with his full authority. Now I'm being told that he doesn't know whether any units are available. He cannot say when they might become available. And Ms. Banks, the compliance manager, had stated flatly that there are no units at all. And just to reinstate, I spoke this on November 17th. I was told on November 21st that I would receive a list of available units that he would be willing to transfer me to. And this morning at 8:50, I contacted Mr. Sales in regards to that list that he said would come before Thanksgiving. And at 12:54, I received a formal document from the Gregg Law Group in regards to my reasonable accommodations request.
Okay, Herb, you want to wrap it up? Go. So, I'm not sure if John is still on, but we'll make sure that someone, get back in touch with you with that. That's, we don't get down into the weeds of that, of things like this, but hopefully someone will follow up with you on that,
Definitely.
okay?
Thank you. It's been going on since October 1st.
Thank you.
And the reason for the request, correct, is because of an upcoming surgery and ability to physically access the unit?
Absolutely. My surgery was supposed to be done on December 9th, which is next week. But due to me still being in an apartment, I had to push the surgery to February 17th. And now, on top of a torn ACL and 2 medial meniscus tear, I now have a hamstring sprain. Like, it's so simple to just help me out instead of put me out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, hi, my name is Angela, Amos Thomas, Payne, Ordren, Wade, Kingston, Snook, Saunders, Freeze, and Maddox. I just want to say, I wanted to call y'all by name, right? Because what I'm about to say is really important to me. But for the homeless people, right? On Thanksgiving, to see so many people outside hungry and cold, that jump was like hurtful. You know what I'm saying? And y'all spoke up earlier about how cold it's about to be. I just walked from here to the pizza place down on the other end of the mall. My fingers was freezing, but I had a destination. You know what I'm saying? I knew where I was going, and I knew where I was going was going to be warm. And I knew once I was done there that I had another destination, and that destination was going to be warm. You know what I'm saying? So for the people outside right now where the temperature is about to be real low, we don't know if all those people are even going to make it. You know what I'm saying? So I know like homelessness is like some type of a different law, but those people are still people. Those people are someone's fathers, you know what I'm saying, mothers, brothers, sisters, uncles. Like, it's just, you know what I'm saying, it's really a problem. And to see how they live was a serious problem for me. And I feel like, I truly feel like, you know those crates that you can get from like different stores and stuff like that, those big wooden crates. I feel like if we came together as a city and a community, we could get some of those crates donated, some tents donated, and we could have those crates go on the ground with the tents on top of them so that the ground, you know what I'm saying, so they won't stay frozen or like get really cold from the ground, because the ground is like the problem. That's when it's really cold. I feel like they need insulation. The fire department got those insulated blankets and stuff. Maybe wherever they're getting them from, they could donate them to someone to get them out to the people that's homeless. There's a lady right now outside who had not even a jacket like I got on, and like one of those throw over blankets that you sit in your living room and watch TV with when it's just a little bit chilly. And I know she cold. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm talking about, I'm gonna go home and go get a blanket out my closet and bring it back downtown to her, because That's not fair. You know what I'm saying? And some people want to live like that, yeah, but some people don't. Some people have a choice, yeah, but some people don't. And even the people with a choice, I still feel like with their choice of being outside, we don't know what in the world, you know what I'm saying, wants them, like, made that choice for them to be outside. But just because you're out there, like, let me help you. You know what I'm saying? So I was talking to my grandma about it as well, and my mom. But, you know, God don't turn his eye on his people, so we should not turn our eye on each other either. And I'm not trying to bring religion into it because I'm not a Christian, but I do believe in God. You know what I'm saying? When somebody asks me what's your religion, I do believe in God. And I feel like when you're walking past someone, like, that should, like, resonate in your mind that, yo, this person is either hungry or cold. And it's not fair to just walk past them, you know what I'm saying? And being out there on Thanksgiving, hearing their stories and hearing what they have to say, they feel like they are unseen. They feel like they are ignored. They feel like they're going to get in trouble or go, you know, be thrown in jail if they, like, sit outside. But with that being said, I think y'all should check out the story of Job. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I did have last night with Pacham shower duty for the men at Ivy Creek, and there was a lot of men there, but they still had capacity, so I would encourage individuals to go to Pacham. There was warm, loving, warm showers, a place for them. We purchased a place, we're working on it. So we're not turning our eye, we're actively working in it, so.
Is there someone who can get those blankets? I feel like
Well, I know last night personally, I brought 3 blankets that we had at our home, and they had others there, and I talked to the men. They have, not that they can use more, but the men there, they had blankets. They're moving today, I think, to Trinity. So we have capacity. They had capacity last night, and I haven't been to the place tonight. So, but anyway, so thank you. Thank you. No, no, I'm sorry. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Thank you.